Welcome to Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn of thejessicaflynn.com, and our show is on a mission to unleash local wisdom for widespread impact. We're committed to inspiring positive change and empowerment in our small community and beyond. If you have ever thought about documenting your story, writing a book, publishing a blog, I'm so excited for this episode. Joining us today are Amanda and Kiel Wilson-Ciocci, the visionary co-founders behind Monarch Co Publishing House. With a mission to build legacies and amplify bold voices, Amanda and Kiel have redefined what it means to publish with purpose. Together, they bring 20 years of experience as entrepreneurs, artists, and educators to now guide authors to transform their stories into powerful vehicles for change. The Monarch Co Publishing House isn't just about creating books. It's about crafting platforms for thought leadership, innovators, and changemakers to inspire and make a difference. Their approach goes beyond traditional publishing by supporting authors every step of the way, it could be you, from concept to marketing, while also championing diversity, equity, and sustainability. Let's dive into how the Monarch Co Publishing House is helping authors build a legacy and create legendary impact. Whoa, I'm so excited about the announcement of this publishing house and to have you, Amanda, back now with your partner, Kiel. So welcome to our little set here. I'm really excited about this conversation.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, it's
excited to be here.
Okay, so let's dive in. The Monarch Co, we've talked about your community supporting entrepreneurs before. You are our very first guest for our very first episode. And to see the evolution of your company and your brand to now launch this collaborative publishing house, and that has such a powerful mission. So can you tell us about what inspired you to start this new project?
Yeah, for us, stories are powerful and really inspired us to create this platform. We have the community of entrepreneurs that we serve, really helping them build that momentum, amplify their impact, expand their reach, and really create positive impact and change. And this is part of that journey to creating impact and legacy. And the publishing house gives entrepreneurs that platform to share their story, to really connect on a deeper and different level with their audience and then their readers to reach and create that impact that they're here to make in the world.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And you're not new to publishing yourself, so can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey as an author that's also kind of brought you here?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2022, I published my first book, The Monarch, really taking my signature program, helping entrepreneurs build, grow, scale, and create the impact in their business. I had a program that I was delivering live. It was a 12-week business and launch accelerator. So I took the information from that program and put it into a book. It was more accessible. It could reach a broader audience and really help people build, grow, and scale their businesses. Mm-hmm. And from that journey, I say writing a book is going to change you in so many ways. It breaks you open in ways you can't prepare for.
I've written a book with Amanda, and this is a true fact. Yeah,
exactly. And that really kind of set the spark into motion. And from that book, I then wrote a co-authored book, One Decision Away, with the amazing women inside the Momentum community, and helping to amplify their voices and their thought leadership on what was their one decision to entrepreneurship. And so those two journeys, both the solo journey and the co-author journey, really inspired my love of storytelling, of writing, of business, and wanting to do this on a bigger and scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and you're also artists. You are entrepreneurs together and separately. So what else, what other parts of your story are woven into the fabric of this publishing house?
I think probably just the combination of having that creative edge and the business strategy allows us to sort of provide a service that is helpful in amplifying and shedding light on those stories. And our approach, having that combination is kind of an interesting
I'm excited for it. I think artistry has so much place in business. That creativity, that adaptability, that maybe, you know, if you're committed to one thing and it's not working out, that flexibility that artistry often brings. So I'm so excited to see artists and strategic entrepreneurs be bringing this to the community.
I think too, that also allows to not fit within a box of it has to be done this way. So our experience in creative arts, in business, really brings a unique perspective in that we can really create a transformative journey that brings creative lens to it. So really, how can we create this journey, and how can we make this an exciting journey for both the reader and the author? So bringing that creative edge to the experience, making it a transformative experience, but then also using it as a tool to leverage and amplify your business as well.
Can we dive into that a little bit? I know you're not going to tell us all of your trade secrets, but that reader experience, how can it be different than just reading words on a page? What are your thoughts?
For us, it's really working with every author. So every author has a vision of what their words can do, of what the impact can be, and what that experience they want to create for their reader. And that really is the heart of what we're trying to create, is thinking about your reader in that experience, and how do you want them to experience you? How do you want them to experience the words on your page, and how can we make this a transformative journey? How can we make this experiential? So how can we change the way that books are written so that it's different? We're pushing boundaries, and we're changing the experience of reading a book, not just from front to back. So really taking the authors and the readers through a journey together to create an experience of transformation.
Cool. Very cool. Okay, I'm excited to see that in action. I'm thinking of, like, on a very basic level, those kids' books that are like, to see what happens to Billy if he chooses this, go to this page. So something like that, a little bit interactive.
Yeah, I think that also the collaboration aspect will definitely lend itself well to exploring those different kind of what the final product sort of looks like. We're absolutely invested in that collaborative kind of piece to really create something for the authors.
Each author is so unique, their story, their impact, and their mission is so unique, so every book will be really unique. Cool. On your website, which is so informative, you emphasize diversity, equity, and inclusion as central values for the publishing house. So why is it so important for the Monarch Co publishing house to create a platform where diverse voices are not only heard, but amplified?
I think in the world that we are in right now, it's important for diverse perspectives, experiences to be heard. And everyone's story matters and can have a positive impact. And so how do we create a platform? How do we create an experience and a space where diverse perspectives are heard and valued and really seen and shed light on, so that we can really bring that to the table and create that experience for the readers?
Yeah. And not just learning from a single source, but opening up worlds to learn from these different perspectives. I do a lot of work in the youth space, and the bubble around a young person can be so small. So kind of cracking that open and sharing stories outside of our own communities is what we need to be doing more of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit, but you're bringing a refreshing approach to publishing. So we talked a little bit about the actual journey of what's in the pages, but can you talk about some of the unique services and supports you provide to authors? One of the things that I found really interesting was that you're going to be a royalty-free publishing house. So how are you supporting authors specifically through this journey?
So for us, it's really a comprehensive journey with the author from concept to reality. And it's really starting at the why, the vision, the impact that the author is looking to create, and then creating that journey around that vision and around that why. And so part of that is being hybrid, it's being collaborative, so that the author is really part of co-creating and curating that journey for the reader, but also for their story and sharing it. So that is part of the mission, is to be hybrid, to be collaborative, to be co-creative, so that they can be part of how their story comes out in the world.
Okay. So what does that actually look like? How long does it take to write a book, and how does one get started in this support with you?
Yeah, so we have kind of two different services that we'll be providing with the publishing house. We will have the solo journey, which will support solo authors from, as Amanda mentioned, this start to finish and beyond. And then the secondary and sort of the service that we are also quite lit up about is that co-authored journey. So it will be allowing a lead author to invite people to come and take part in a co-authored journey, and we'll be supporting that journey along the way as well.
So then you would support the lead author as well as the co-author. So a co-authored book is written by a group of people that has kind of one lead person kind of tying that golden thread together. So you would support the lead as well as the co-authors. Okay, cool. And what are some of the ways, so if they're working with you for a number of months, how do you help, like some of our viewers at home may have ideas about a book that they thought of or a short story. How do you actually like tease that out? What kind of exercises or support can you help with things like writer's block, or how to sort all of these mess of ideas into something tangible that makes sense?
Great question. And really it is about the whole journey. So it's starting from vision, but then how do we map that out and actually create the roadmap to your successful book launch, which means we have editors, we have a writing team to really help you develop your story so that you can really look at it from what's important for you to share and how is that received by the reader. We have graphic team to really bring that visually to life in your book. And then our marketing that's going to help you with brand positioning and messaging and launching, right? Such an important aspect of your book is how do we build that momentum to launch, and then what happens post-publication? What are we doing with your book? How are we using it as a tool? So we're supporting the authors and the writers through that whole process, from concept to development to launch to publishing and beyond.
That's so exciting. You really get kind of wrapped up in this cocoon, so to speak, of support on the journey. And I know as one of the authors that you've worked with before, that seeing like that first graphic concept that represents your work, and you as visual artists know too the impact of putting the visual beside the words and how they complement. What a rush that was to see. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the difference between a co-authored book, a lead authored book, and as your wheels are turning at home, we'll also try and get you really excited and inspired about why your story is so important and how to share it. So stay tuned, we'll be back. This is Empowered. I'm your host, Jess Flynn. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm your host, Jess Flynn, and I am sitting with Kiel and Amanda Wilson-Ciocci of the Monarch Co publishing house. Amanda, can we start with, you are a 2-time best-selling author. What was it like for you on the author's journey? What did that look and feel like?
I often say the process of writing a book will break you open in ways you can't prepare for. One of the things that I compare it to is childbirth, less painful.
Fun, okay.
Maybe.
Let's do that, yeah.
But really it is a process of going in order to come out. And so that process for me was really tapping into my own story, tapping into who it was that I was writing for, what the impact was going to be, how could that make a positive change. And so writing your words and seeing it on a page and publishing it and holding it is really a process that is part of a human tradition that is not new, right? Sharing our story, sharing that impact is really transformational. So for me, going through that journey, I can really relate to the authors that we're going to be helping to help them bring their books and their stories out in the world in a way that feels aligned and impactful for them.
And thinking of it as this kind of like life cycle and journey, on the break you were talking about some family history that also inspired you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the hearts behind this is when my papa was leaving this world. He was in hospice, and very wise man, and I realized in hospice long before that he had so many stories and so much wisdom to share. And I remember driving the 9-hour drive to get to his bedside to interview him, all of these questions that I wanted to ask, because I didn't want him leaving the planet without having these stories to pass down and this wisdom to be shared. And so we all have these stories and this wisdom that comes generation to generation that needs to be shared, that needs to be passed down. And being able to create a space where we help authors and writers do that, to share their stories, to pass down wisdom, to help create positive impact, is an honor and is really tied to that heart mission of...
Yeah. It's really one of the oldest traditions we have is storytelling and the written word. And what do you know, there's so much new technology coming out there. I mean, we often now share our stories in 30-second tidbits, and we're looking to see who's read it and how much reach there is. And I don't know how authentic it always is when we're, talking about social media. So what do you see, you're opening a publishing house in the same year that AI has become one of the greatest revolutions. What are your thoughts on the future of the written word in this technological age?
Yeah, I think that it's a great question to ask, and I don't know if we will really be able to answer until we can kind of look backwards on that. But I feel that the written word and that process of slowing down and formulating your thoughts, your own authentic voice, is a process that is a human process. And I think that we can absolutely use technology to help, with different processes or as a tool. But that sort of slowing down, as Amanda mentioned, that process of writing really kind of breaks you open and forces you to think about those questions in a deeper and sort of more contemplative way.
And perhaps the more technically written stuff that we're able to consume, we're going to be craving a more human created tool or communication, right? The human stories.
Yeah. And I think even just that tactile experience, right? We all have our ebooks and our phones where we're consuming our social media posts and all of the things, but there's something about holding that book and flipping the pages and smelling that cracked
and physically
novel.
Passing it off to someone to read or gifting it. Like, I learned so much and I highlighted some notes and here's this physical thing. Yeah. So before the break, we talked a little bit, your two kind of signature services. So a solo author, I think we understand what that is, one person writing a book to make their impact. The co-authored book, what would inspire, who is that co-author and who is that profile?
Yeah. So the co-authored book is really who we're working with is the lead author in that experience. We're working with all the authors in the book, but it really is a thought leader, an entrepreneur who is looking to bring together a community, bring together thought leaders to write on a given topic. So really that journey and that experience brings together those diverse voices and those experiences to write and share so that you can reach your reader on multiple levels. And for us, it's about collaboration. It's about building community. It's about increasing the impact and the butterfly effect of writing that story or that topic and really sharing a perspective or different perspectives within one book.
Right. I just had an idea that I'm going to throw out to you at home. I used to be a teacher, and I've had some ideas with working with youth, but also to hear maybe from different teachers about, a year in the life of teaching in this day and age or something, and gathering your colleagues together to write a book. So I'll pitch that to you. You can contact the Monarch Co Publishing House. But I think, coming together in storytelling, you don't have to just be writing by yourself. If you have collective experiences that are diverse to create this kind of mosaic of stories. I think it's really beautiful. And what are some of those big benefits to a co-authored book for someone who's looking to expand their brand, expand their reach?
I mean, it's exactly that. It is building community. It's bringing people together to expand their thought leadership. And really, as a lead author, you are leading that journey, you're leading that project. And so you are positioning yourself as a thought leader and an industry expert and bringing people together on that journey with you. And of course, our job is to support all of the authors through that process so that we're guiding and we're bringing you through the process to a published book. But really, the lead author, it is to position to increase their thought leadership, to expand their reach, and to really amplify their impact, not only for themselves, but for their co-authors and their community that they are doing this with.
And selfishly, as a co-author, I liked that I didn't have to write, is it a 60,000 word? What's a full book?
30 to 60,000 words. For my solo book, I did 30,000. I really like those quick reads that you can work through, but typically between 30 and 60,000 is a traditional manuscript.
Right.
And so, as a co-author, you are only responsible for writing 3,000 words, which is much more digestible for you, right?
Yeah, I found it quite relaxing. Well, it wasn't relaxing, but it wasn't 30 to 60,000 words. So back to the publishing house on this grander scale, your mission. Sustainability is something that you mention in your mission. Can you talk to us about what your future plans are to be a sustainable publishing house?
Yeah. So part of our process in being the hybrid publisher is really to look at, traditional ways of printing and publishing and how can we disrupt that space, or how can we be sustainable in our practices. So looking at our systems and looking at our printing methods. So rather than traditionally running a large print run and storing this in a warehouse, we're choosing more print on demand methods so that we're only using what we need. And part of that mission is really from the education of knowing that one single tree prints 62 books. And so,
one tree and 62 books. Okay.
So how can we be a sustainable business when we are about to create a publishing house and do it in a way that we can give back, so that we are thinking about these initiatives as we move forward?
Yeah, that's incredible. And a value that, as the kind of lead organization will probably be passed down throughout the authors that are attracted to publish with you. On your website, you have that you believe a single story can change the world. So how do you work with authors to ensure that their stories are, they have the confidence and that they know that their stories are worth sharing?
I think that really comes back to the why. So when we work with authors, it's really coming back to why they want to write a story, why it's important to them, the impact that that's going to have, who they want to reach, why it's important to do now. And so really looking at that story, so really looking at the author and why that's important to them, and then turning it outwards and saying, what can this impact have? And every story, we really believe, has the ability to create positive change. And so really working with our authors that we're working with to see what that is. What is this change? What is this positive impact you're looking to create? And how can we work with you to make sure that your story has the impact that you're looking to make with it?
I think that the only story that doesn't have impact is the one that doesn't get shared. So it's we truly believe that it's important for those stories to be shared, and we're grateful to be able to provide that service.
Beautiful. I love the way you worded that. So the concept of the butterfly effect is consistent across the Monarch Co community as well as the publishing house. So can you give some examples? And essentially the butterfly effect is small actions creating broader change. So can you share a bit about how this concept shapes your philosophy and maybe some examples that you've seen in the work that you've done so far?
think it really shapes everything that we do. So really, coming back to, again, the why. What is the why behind this mission, and what is the impact that you want to create? So is this an impact for a reader? Is this an impact for a community? Is this an impact for your business? And looking at what are the things that need to happen along the journey with us to have that ripple effect, whether that's locally, globally, but really looking at coming back to the why. What is the mission? What is the purpose? What is the impact? And then how do we create a journey to support that vision?
I think feeling empowered that your story, if you keep it to yourself, is actually selfish and could inspire and help a lot of people. So in the last couple of minutes here, could you give us a few bullet points? If someone at home is thinking and has been thinking about sharing their story, publishing a piece, writing a book, what are some of the steps that they should be taking to get started, to get that story out of them and into the world?
I think just starting that conversation, and it doesn't necessarily need to be this grand thing, but I think that the butterfly, the small sort of step that has that ripple effect. Sit down with somebody, at the dinner table, talk to a neighbor, somebody in your community, a colleague, and share part of your story, and start to look at your own story and how those pieces of information can move forward, and what those effects and impact
I like
offer.
that. Yeah.
No, I love it. And it really is just about starting. And often we don't even realize the impact of our own story until we share it. And so if that is having a conversation, sometimes it feels really expansive or challenging to write a post because it's vulnerable.
Right.
But really stepping into that vulnerability and being able to share a piece of your story to really see the impact that it has is really empowering.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us today. Thank you to Kiel and Amanda Wilson-Ciocci of the Monarch Co Publishing House. And we encourage all of you to share your story, write it down, sit at the kitchen table and share all of that wisdom that you have to share. And we'll see you next time on Empowered with Jessica Flynn.